Hi, good people. Today we're going to be recreating the 1981 classic game Frogger, which was developed by Konami and published by Sega. The objective of the game is to guide the frog through obstacles within a set time limit. This will be an easy to follow tutorial series where I'll show you how to create a fully fledged game right from scratch. Let's not waste any time and just jump right into it. Okay, I am starting with the third person template. So if we play the project, we see I have Quinn here, and I can move around, pretty simple. Feel free to start with a blank template because I don't think we're going to be using any of the template options here. We're first going to set up our project. We're going to create some folders, so we can right click, select new folder. I'm going to create an art folder to store our static meshes and textures. And then we're also going to create a blueprints folder. And then we'll also need an input folder. And I think that is probably good starting off. So what we'll do is we'll come into the art folder, and I'm going to create another subfolder, but this one will be called Frogger. And then I've created a static mesh frog skeletal mesh here with some animations on it. All these will be available. I'll publish them to the Fab Marketplace, so you get them right from Unreal as well. But I'll also create a link in the description of the YouTube video so you can pick up the completed project there as well. So whatever's easier for you. So what I can do is just drag my static mesh in. It'll kick off the import here. For the default settings, I'll just leave everything alone and just hit import. And it should bring in the skeletal mesh, as well as the animations and the materials associated with this little frog mesh. Once we have that done, we can come to our blueprints folder and we can right click and create our first blueprint class. Pretty much everything we make with code in it is going to be some type of blueprint. This will be visual scripting, so there'll be no manual coding in this tutorial series, so it'll be pretty straightforward. When we're creating our blueprints, we have to pick a parent class. So for this particular one, I'm going to choose character for a couple reasons. One, it has a pawn in it, which means it can be possessed. So you can have that be possessed by an AI or by a player. But the other reason is because the character has a standard Unreal Engine script that will handle the movement code. So that makes it a little bit easier. So we'll choose character here. And I'll give it the title of BP_player. Okay, and then we can double click, and it's going to open on my other screen, so I can move it over here. And then you can see it's kind of bare bones. Has a capsule component, an arrow, and a skeletal mesh, but there's nothing in the actual skeletal mesh. So in the left-hand side, you have your component section. I'm going to select the mesh object, and then when you do that, the details panel on the right will show you options for that particular component. In this case, there is a skeletal mesh asset here. I can hit the drop down and you see it makes a reference to the frog that I imported earlier. So I'll choose that, and then we have our little frog. Now it looks a bit big. If I compile and save, I can drag this blueprint in the world, and I think it is a touch too big. So what we can do is with the mesh selected, we can come into the details panel and there's a scale option. I'm going to hit the little lock, and then I'm going to scale it by 0.25. And what that lock does is it'll make whatever change you make on one axis, it'll replicate it to the other axis as well. So it just makes it a little bit quicker. So then if we compile and go back to the level, you can see our frog object is a lot smaller. But it looks like it's floating in the air. So let's go back to the blueprint. And we can see the parent container component is going to be this little capsule component object here. So what we're going to do is we're going to move and transform the capsule component, and then all the children, one of which is the little frog, will kind of follow along with it. So we'll basically drive the logic that way, where we'll move the capsule, up, down, left, and right, and then we'll maybe rotate the static mesh object around, and we'll leave everything else static. But let's select the capsule component on the left. The details panel on the right has a half height and a radius. It's a little too tall. Maybe bump it down. I don't know, 34 maybe is good. Let's see here. I think we'll make it a little bigger. Maybe we'll do 45, and then we'll do 45 here. And then that looks a little bit better. And then what we can do is select our mesh, and there's a perspective drop down at the top here. I can say, like, let's go to the front, and then I can drag the static mesh so it kind of meets like the ground. So maybe right around there. And then if we go back to the level, you can see he's no longer kind of like floating in there. If we hit the N key there, it'll kind of push the blueprint down to the ground. You can see maybe he's still floating just a bit, so I think we'll probably be okay with that though. It can be a little bit hovering. If we go back into the mesh, and let's go back to the front view, we can hit the toggle here. Instead of 10 units, maybe let's do 5. Let's drag him down maybe a little bit lower. And I think that will work just fine. We'll do the collision checking off the sphere, so if a car basically touches any part of the sphere, we'll trigger that as the event, as like the death event for the player. But, all right, so that looks pretty good so far. So what we can do is save there. Now the next thing we want to do is, currently if I play the scene, you'll see that I am still playing as Quinn. I'm not playing as the frog. To be able to switch to the actual blueprint we created, we need to go to our project settings, and then under maps and modes on the left, there is a selected game mode. So I can hit the drop down there. There is a default pawn class, which is currently set to be the third person blueprint. So I'm going to change that to be the BP_player. And now if I play, you'll notice the viewport looks a lot different. If I hit the apostrophe key, and then I hit the tab key, it'll bring me into this little like little camera mode where I can kind of fly around the level and see different things. And we can see that my player is actually right here. It's just we can't see it because there's no camera attached to it, so it's just kind of doing it from like the viewport of like the frog. So kind of like right there. But the traditional Frogger game kind of has like a top-down approach. So what we'll do is in the blueprint we can add a camera, and what we can do is we can attach the camera to like a spring arm, and then we can kind of you can control the movement of the camera a little bit better with the spring arm. So we'll select the capsule component, which is the parent. We'll hit add, and we'll search for spring arm. With the spring arm selected, we're going to hit add again, and this time we'll search for the camera. We'll just choose the basic camera, and that way it attaches the camera as a child of the spring arm. Now if we select the spring arm under the details panel, I'm going to basically extend the arm length. We'll do maybe 2,000 units, so it's a little bit further away. And then for the rotation in the y-axis, we'll do -60 degrees, so it kind of pitches it up. You could do maybe a completely top down, maybe 90 degrees. But I think for this one, I'm gonna just pitch it just a little bit, so it kind of keeps more of that 3D kind of look and feel, rather than the classic 2D of the traditional game. The other issue is that we'll notice the frog is kind of not facing forward. Unreal Engine uses the x-axis as the forward axis. So you'll notice with my little gizmo on the bottom left, the X forward is that way. So what we can do is I can select the mesh, and under rotation, I can rotate it either -90 or +270. And that should rotate the mesh forward. So now if we compile and save this, we can actually, come over here, hit play. And now this is going to be like the view of the traditional game. So let me go ahead and delete this from the scene because we no longer need it. And the other important call out here too is we are, because we're using the starter template, it has a map built out for us already, and it's using this player start. So our player will basically spawn wherever this player start is. It'll basically instantiate the BP underscore player, and then kind of pull it in there. So that's why it was creating a new one, and rather than possessing the one I had placed in the world. But yeah, so I think this is probably a good stopping point to kind of keep these videos a little bit short. So we got our player created. In the next one, what we'll do is we'll set up the input code. So we'll be able to set up our controllers and our keyboard and mouse so we can actually move our player around the map. But as always, thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and we'll see you on the next one.